Tina, thank you so much for coming. We're so happy to have you here. So, how did you find out that you were related to Tubman?
My mother told me. I always knew it, from the time that I was old enough uh, to hear, to see. My mother is from Auburn, New York, and most of her family was still there. And my grandparents were in from Auburn, and because ours is a maternal line. I have a maternal line uh, going to Aunt Harriet, and
What did she say to you, and what did you think when you found out?
well, I was just, I was so young. I mean, I was like when you're talking to a 2 year old, 3 year old. So I don't really remember that. It's more of a feeling of, just like of anybody else that's related to you. Um, and they come around and you say, "Well, this is Aunt so and so," or "This is Uncle so and so."
So it's
For
just almost normal.
Yeah, it was normal. I mean, we would go to my grandmother's house, and we visited there often. I mean, often. Uh, every other week. And then I spent summers there. But when we would go, it would be as if, my grandmother always said about her, "Well, let's go visit Aunt Harriet." That meant we were going to the property, which the property was up the street and down the street from where my grandmother lived. So that meant we were going to the home, and then going to the cemetery, pretty much paying homage, because she remembers the home of Aunt Harriet because her mother worked closely with Aunt Harriet, and I didn't find out till later that my grandmother actually called her Aunt Harriet because she knew her. Um, and I didn't even know that. She didn't talk about that until she got right until a year before she passed away.
What was it like for you visiting her home, going to the cemetery?
Well, during that time, it was just wonderment. You know, why is this so important? That we have to do this. Um, I knew that she was. I was told what she did, um, but more of the focus was on um, that she was uh, our ancestor, our aunt, my grandmother's aunt, um, and more personally. So I don't think it felt any other way than it would have felt uh, after my grandfather died and we went to visit his grave. It I didn't know Aunt Harriet, but I knew him. So emotionally, I was more tied to what I was seeing versus to her at that time. Now it's different, much different.
When did you first realize that her story was important, and when did you first acknowledge it to the world?
Well, beyond the fact that she was just an aunt related to us in our family, like that. Second grade, they were talking about Aunt Harriet. I don't know how that happened because we didn't learn African American history in school at that time. So I don't really know how that came about, but I know that she mentioned Aunt Harriet and what she did, which I already knew what she did. But I decided, okay, well, this is different. You know, they're talking about her outside of my home, and So I said, okay, she's my ancestor. I know this woman, that she's my ancestor. And so when I said that, another classmate, a little girl, I can see her now. She said, "Well, okay, if that's your aunt, then my father is the president of the United States." And so that said to me, I didn't feel good about that, and I wish I had not shared it. So I said, they don't believe you. So just be quiet. Don't say anything ever again. And I didn't. I never said anything else after that in all my school years until high school happened. And even then, I didn't say anything. I was approached by my teacher because African American history, we had boycotted and was able to get that taught into my high school. And the teacher, homeroom teacher, said, Ernestine, is it true that Harriet Tubman is your ancestor? And I like looked at her and just said, okay, yes, yes, and I just ran out the room because I was trying to get to my class on time. Never thought about, where'd you hear that from? No one else knows that. I didn't tell anybody else. How did you know? But so that's a mystery that will never be found out to me.
To have to almost keep it secret, you're kind of getting at this, but how has being related to Tubman shaped your life? Is it an honor? Is it a burden?
It's not a burden. Uh, it's an honor that I feel I want to pay to her. When you're young, you don't realize the things that people actually do and what they have to go through in order to be able to do that. A lot of people want to say, oh, they want to be Harriet Tubman and like that, but would you really want to go through what she had to go through being Harriet Tubman? Um, but just knowing about finding out more about her, it just made me feel so much closer to her, the kind of person she was. And it began to connect me to my own family, to my family line, to her, and seeing different things that happen in my family with my grandmother, my mother, and great grandma. Where did that come from? That had to come from her influence. But uh, the fact that she was such a selfless woman, that she kept, the greatest thing for me was her faith. That was the greatest connection. Um, and in knowing that, I began to, as I talk about her, I become more connected to her. She becomes more real to me, not just a memory, but actually something that is alive. And it makes me really just love her, uh, because knowing what she went through, what she did, and how she helped other people. Um, I just can't say enough about her. I can talk about her for hours and hours and hours.
What's something that you would ask her if you could today?
How did you never lose faith? How did you never question God? And just how did you trust Him so implicitly and not have fear?
I would love to know the answer to that question myself, to be honest.
Hmm.
Can you think of, can you imagine what she might say?
She communed with him every day. Just like I was saying to you about reading more about her, thinking about her, and what she did and things like that. Well, it's the same way when you commune with God. He becomes more real to you, not just something out in space or whatever, but he becomes real. You begin to know him as a person, and that's what she did.
Do you think that she saw herself as a spy, as a general, or did she see herself fulfilling a duty from God?
Oh, definitely. I mean, from the time she first liberated, uh, she knew that that was her purpose. We all have purpose in this earth. That's why we're born into this earth. We have a purpose that God has for us, a plan. But we all don't leave, a lot of us leave this earth never knowing that plan. And that's because we don't ask or we don't listen, we don't pay attention. But she did. And she knew her purpose was freedom, not just for herself, but for others. Because that's the whole point of us being here. When we're born into this earth, it's not just about us. God works through us. We're the vessel that He works through. And she understood that. And so she knew that freedom was the most important thing. Her faith helped her to do that, helped her to stay on point, helped her to get through areas and uh, that were perilous. Um, and uh, she always gave glory to God for her success because she'll say, wasn't me, it was God, it wasn't me. And so paying attention, listening for how he spoke to her in the different ways or the guidance helped her to go from there to the Civil War. I mean, think about the Civil War. She was already free, even though they said, she was still belonged to someone else. Well, how are you going to steal yourself? But uh,
And doing that work as a spy was
mhm,
part of fulfilling her mission.
yeah.
What do you know about her time as a spy?
Well, first of all, she was uh, asked to go down to Beaufort. I mean, they all talked. They were all abolitionists. Even the governor of Massachusetts, John Andrews. They were all, and and people. It's a small world, even though it's a lot of them. There's a small world because they were abolitionists. So they met and talked often, and so he knew of Aunt Harriet. He knew of her ability and her uh, ability to get people from one place to another. He knew that she was discerning, which was very important. He knew that even though she couldn't read or write, that she was very intelligent. So going there was done because he asked her to go down, even though she knew about it, had some interest. When he asked her to go down, he said, I want you to go down and to be a spy and a scout. That's what he asked her, to be a spy and a scout for the Union. He felt that she was an asset because of the things, the abilities that she had already shown on the Underground Railroad, being a conductor, because she said she never lost a passenger, and she didn't. So he knew she could lead. She was a leader. and very discerning. She could look at a person from far away and just know or sense something about that person, and if whether something was right or whether it was wrong. Um, so, and even in her pension, she says, she's seeking the pension afterwards as a spy and a scout, as a leader of, uh, as Frederick Douglass's son said during the war when he wrote his wife saying, "Guess who I saw down here? I saw Harriet with a gang of scouts, being the captain of a gang of scouts." And so, just having that, um, you know, mm,
It's really remarkable the fact that she was able to essentially be the first woman to command men in a
oh yeah,
militarily, or,
she was yeah, she was a leader. The thing, what, and it reminds me, I can't remember the name of the empress. I think it's of Ethiopia. When I read about her, it made me think about Aunt Harriet because they both had the same uh, attributes. Aunt Harriet was she was strategic. She knew how to analyze. Then she knew how to plan, and then she knew how to execute that plan. So all those things were important. She did all of that for that raid. Um,
and was even able to locate the torpedoes in the
yes,
river
yeah,
by having conversations with
yes,
people who had knowledge of it.
right, right. Yeah, they gathered, intelligence gatherers. That's what they call them now.
Mhm.
And William Burns of the CIA, the director of the CIA, said of her when they uh, uh, you know, installed the statue of her, which is right across from Nathan Hale. During that ceremony, he said that uh, what they model their modern day intelligence gathering after her, how she did things. So, I mean, how much that meant to be able to say this person who could not read, could not write, was enslaved.
And yet she was inducted into the U.S. Army Military Intelligence Corps Hall
Hall
of
of Fame.
Fame in
Yes,
2021,
right.
more than 150 years later.
Hmm.
Why did it take so long?
Well, first of all, women weren't allowed to be formally be in the military. But however, they did use women for different things. But with Aunt Harriet, they gave her full reign when she went down. She had the everything afforded to her, every possibility, every being able to go into the commissary, be able to travel on government transport at will. I mean, everything that an officer had rights to, she did also.
A testament to how much they respected her.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, so
But why did it take so long to honor her? And you can be honest here.
racism. That's what I think. Uh, Also power. Um, this is a United States is a pretty much when it comes to the government, and I think that's what we're seeing right now. It's about white male power. And so how are you going to say give anything to this black woman who was enslaved, couldn't read or write, um, you're going to give her honors in her ability to help save the Union, um, because she was very much instrumental in doing that and what she did. She even said what President Lincoln needed to know, that he needed to be able first free the slaves, then let them fight alongside their white counterpart. She said, if you don't do that, you're not going to win this war. So when they did that for the United States Intelligence Corps, they said they were making up for something that should have been done long time ago, and they were giving her honors because she was a person of integrity. She got the Knowlton Medal Award. That's not given to everyone, and that's a medal of integrity. That medal was started in the late 1700s, um, during that time, and so it was put it was put forth in an application by another uh, uh, military woman who felt, we're missing something here. She needs to be honored, because there were on the wall there was another woman and her that had formerly been enslaved by her. They were on that wall as full honors, in full as full inducted on, and given an um, they were giving full honors on that wall. The first time she was given honorary mention, Aunt Harriet was. And so I asked, after I looked at the wall, I wanted to know, why isn't she getting full honors? If they can get it, why didn't she get it? And so they said, well, maybe this changed or that changed. So um, they said I could write a new narrative.
In more modern times,
Hmm.
there was a moment where Harriet Tubman was going to be on the $20 bill.
Mm.
What happened?
I don't know what happened, because we were told in the beginning that it was going to happen quickly. So then it was said 2023, then it was said 2025, because they have to redesign it. So I found out that they really had to, it wasn't designed. And they had to do some things to make it, to give it a security clearance. But it also had to have Braille on it. Now in Canada, Canada already has Braille on some of their currency, and that was another holdup. With They did not have Braille on it, so not having those things is just delaying it. So what my hope was, when President Biden was in, it was that we could, because they seem like they create laws whenever they want to, for whatever they want to. And I just wanted to make sure, okay, well, if it's not going to happen until 2030 or beyond, and maybe not even in my lifetime, I wanted to be there so that no one can take it away. It can't continue to be kicked down the road, and that it has to be done.
Are you and your family going to try to make it happen still?
Oh, we're still trying. We're still trying, and a lot of other people are taking part in that. You know, trying to push for that. But there's so much. That 20, her on the 20, reflects the ideal of democracy. You learn so much by the actual reason why our currency is designed the way it is. And the fact that the thing that the money that's exchanged mostly is a 20. So you're holding it all the time. You're it's a subtle indoctrination of what you see on it, and you're not even realizing it. If you look at Confederate money, what it had on it, they were trying to show that enslaved people were happy. Oh, they're out there in the fields and they're happy doing what they're doing. They designed it so that they were the image of the enslaved people were at the very apex. And then you had other other things going down, other images to each corner. And so in art, when you do a form like that, the most important thing is at the top. What you want to convey. Um, so uh, the her being on there, we need to have a reflection of her truth, of what the world, what United States truly should be, what she truly fought for, because she did fight for democracy. If you think and understand what democracy really is, it's freedom, it's justice, it's equality, it's inclusion.
Yeah, what can her story, especially her time as a spy, what can it teach us today? Why should we still be thinking about Tubman's story?
Because she was included. I mean, who did they reach out to say, we need your help if we're going to win? Now, did she come with education? Did she come from, was she white? Did she come from a background of money and power? No. But one thing I will say, in her favor, her power was God. Just like today, our power is God. People can do what they want to do, but still, we have to remember that there is a God.
Ernestine, thank you so much for sitting down in this studio and sharing your story, Tubman's story. It's really been an honor to speak with you.
Thank you.